Thanks. My name's Amy Cook. I am a speech language pathologist. I work with Infant Toddler Services of Johnson County. Um, I've been in the Kansas City area providing pediatric services for almost 24 years. It's flown by. I'm super excited to be here this evening to talk to you guys about different tips and tricks that you can implement in your natural routines with your children to help facilitate their speech, language, and communication skills.
And I'm Stephanie. I also work for Infant Toddler Services of Johnson County. I have been doing this a little bit longer than Amy. Hope that doesn't date me too much, but I'm also in the Kansas City area. I have worked for a variety of different settings. I've worked for not-for-profits, the districts, for contracted employers. But I started in infant toddler services and I felt like this was the place to be. This is when you can make such a substantial impact in kids and families' lives. And I just really love the work that I do here. So hope we can pass along a little bit of information to you, Michelle, and to whoever is viewing this. And I'm just going to let Amy take it away.
Okay, great. And I remembered to unmute myself. So I think it's been a success so far. Okay. Sorry, it's not letting me advance it. Okay. All right. So we're going to get started tonight discussing those three different types of language that our presentation's going to cover. The first is expressive language. Second is receptive language, and then the third is social language. So expressive language is the language that the child is producing. This is the language that they use to express their wants, needs, and feelings. They can do this through speech. They can do it through writing. They can do it through their body language, which includes their facial expression as well as sign language. The second type of language that we're going to be discussing tonight when we go over milestones and strategies is receptive, which is their understanding of language. So does the child know when they hear the word apple that it represents or is a symbol for that round piece of fruit that can be red or green? This also deals with the child's ability to listen and follow directions. The last type of language that we'll be covering tonight is social language. And that's that simple, informal language that we use when we talk to family members as well as friends. So the first group that I'm going to cover is that birth to 12-month range, so our babies. And we'll start off by discussing expressive language. So when our children are falling into this age range, we would expect that they start to vocalize to show us that they're happy and content or that they're upset. Maybe they're hungry, maybe they're tired, but it's through their vocalizations that we're able to get information on how they're feeling and what they need. We also see children in this age range begin to blow raspberries. So as they're playing, you might hear them go as they figure out that they can blow that air through those lips to make that super fun sound. Our babies are going to start to produce vowels as they're cooing. They're saying ooh and ah. And then they figure out how to combine consonant and vowels together while they're babbling. And so we might hear them babble long strings of sound where they're saying ma, 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 ma. Then they start to just reduplicate it as their speech system's maturing. They're able to just say mama and then ma. Our children are starting to communicate through gesture by raising their arms. So when we go to their crib, they might lift their arms up to tell us that they want to be picked up. And they might push away items that they don't want. It's around 12 months of age where our child is going to produce their first words, which is always a very exciting time. Now, their first words might not sound exactly the way they should. So by that, I mean that it can be a word approximation. So if we think about the word ball, the child might not get all three of those sounds. They might say ba or they might say buh, but it's a consistent approximation that they're using that we know signals that it's ball. So, what can we do to help our babies? What can we do to facilitate their expressive language skills? Well, we want to make sure that we are doing that throughout the child's daily routines. Parents are very, very busy, and we don't want you to have to carve extra teaching time for your child. We're encouraging you to embed these strategies within your routines. You already are diapering your children, you're already feeding your children, you're bathing your children. What can you do during those routines to help their language? Well, the first idea is imitating the sounds and the actions that the child's doing. And this is a really, I think, wonderful strategy. Imitation is very important to child development. It's really the foundation for learning. And we know that when a child imitates us, they are connected to us socially and they can also learn new skills. We can teach our little ones about imitation if we imitate them. So, by imitating back the sounds they're making throughout their day, we're teaching them that natural um, response of imitation where you take your turn, then I take my turn. We want to be face to face with our children during routines. When we're face to face, they can see our mouths, they can get that visual information on how to produce different sounds, they can see information about our facial expressions. During bath time, during playtime, during mealtime, we want to narrate. I want to talk about what I'm doing in those routines, but I'm also going to tell the child what they're doing. Always fun to play those face-to-face or social games like peekaboo. So maybe during dressing, I'm going to hold the child's shirt up and then slowly lower it and say boo, to encourage that game. Wait to see if the child tries to imitate boo, but do it during dressing because it's just a natural, nice time to do that. I want to teach my child the name of different objects. And so when it's time to eat, as I'm handing them the spoon, I'm going to say spoon. Oftentimes, I like to say the word 3 times with a pause in between so that the child has an opportunity to try and imitate the word or say the word after I do. And then I'm modeling gestures. So in the morning, when I get my child up for the day, I'm waving as I say hi. During playtime, I'm clapping. I might want to introduce some baby signs. So thinking about doing eat or drink, milk with my child, that this is going to teach my child a symbol for those different wants and potential needs. But we know that it's easier for children to do a motor action or a gesture than it is to say a word. So this can cut down on some of the frustration that children might be experiencing if we start to introduce some of those baby signs. And then another great activity that you can do during playtime or in the car is singing different songs or nursery rhymes. If you think about Itsy Bitsy Spider, the words that compose that song, or the words that are a part of that song, are all composed of early developing speech sounds. So that's a great way where you can sing that song, do a little bit of auditory bombardment for your kids, and model those different speech sounds and words for them. So going on to receptive language, what is it that we can do with our babies to help their receptive language? Well, we want to monitor those milestones. We want to make sure that the children in this age range are alerting to sounds. They, when they're crying or upset, if we talk to them, do they quiet? Are they watching our face as we talk to them? Do they react to objects that make sound? So if my dog starts barking, does my baby turn and look to find the dog? Also, are they responding to their name? If we call the baby during bath time or during playtime, do they look at us? Do they look for other family members or pets when we name them? So if I say, "Where's mommy?" does the child look for mommy? If we say, "Where's daddy?" does the child look for daddy? And then we want to see if our children are understanding familiar words based on their behavior. If I say it's time for bath, does the child crawl towards the bathtub? If I say it's time to eat, do they move towards the high chair, demonstrating that they've understood what I've said to them? In terms of tips or tricks we can do for receptive language to help facilitate that, we want to monitor the child's hearing. And we can do this by seeing if they're alerting to sound. Are they turning when they hear a noise? Do they wake up if there's a loud noise when they're sleeping? So all of those expectations and milestones can help us as we monitor the child's hearing. And then of course, we want to, if they do have ear infections that are occurring, talk to the pediatrician about how we're going to manage that, just because we know that hearing is such an important part of language development. We want to continue to provide that language-rich environment where we're modeling the self-talk and the parallel talk. We're pointing and saying things. If I'm on a walk with my child, I'm going to point to the tree and say tree. I'm going to point to the car and say car. I might use a sing-songy voice, so I might sound a little bit more animated or fun. Some kids like that, and it can really draw their attention to you. Other children might like more of that mother ease or parent ease voice where it's calm and relaxing. So you can definitely individualize that based on the child's preference. We want to simplify our language. If I'm on that walk with my child and I'm saying, "All right, it's time to get in the stroller. We need to go take the dog for a walk here. I'm going to buckle you in. I've got the dog. Let's leave the house now. Oh, look, there's a tree." That's a lot of language, and the child is going to have a harder time segmenting out those words that we're trying to teach them. And so that's why it's really nice to do that pointing and that single word or 2, 3 word phrase labeling. Repetition is always great. Kids learn through repetition. That's why when they're little, they'll bring you the same book to read over and over and over again because they absolutely love repetition and it's so important for learning. And then lastly, we want to respond to our baby's cues and reinforce their understanding. Looking at that last type of language for our children that are birth to 12, the milestones that we would expect is that they're recognizing their caregiver's face. They're crying to get mom or dad's attention. They're starting to smile, coo, laugh, and they may show preferences for caregivers. So they might, if both parents are around and available, they might show through gesturing or holding their hands up or crawling over to one parent that they prefer to be given attention to by either mom or dad. Our babies want to be picked up and hugged for comfort and connection. This is when we start to see separation anxiety. So you might notice that children in this age range become uncomfortable around new people. They're not quite sure and want to be with the individuals who they know. And then we see social gestures such as waving hi and bye and high five starting to emerge. In terms of our strategies or tricks, again, we're using these in our routines. We're face to face as much as possible. We're using that mother ease, that parent ease, that nice, calm voice when you talk to them. You want to respond right away and nurture the child if they need you. Making silly faces, playing little laughing games is always a great idea. When you're diapering them, taking their foot and maybe smelling it and pretending it's stinky, or singing little songs with them. And then another great idea is the use of mantras. So those ideas of when the child is upset, as you're calming and comforting them, saying, "You're safe, mama's here, I've got you, it's okay," that the child is going to start to associate or pair that language with comfort. And so over time, you're able to just use the language and that will in itself be calming to the child because they've learned that those words go together with comfort. In our next slide, we've got all of the different routines listed that you might complete with your child throughout the day. We've got waking and diapering, dressing, mealtime, playtime, community outings, bath time, and bedtime. So again, what can be helpful is thinking about a routine and deciding, okay, which of the strategies do I want to try? So maybe during diapering, I'm working on teaching diaper, that label of that item. Maybe I'm going to play a kissing game, or I'm going to work on teaching them tummy. Can do lots of different things during that. If it's time for bottling, that's a great time to work on that bonding, that social language. We might want to reduce distractions during bottling so that we've got a really nice opportunity to connect with our child and work on that attachment piece. And maybe we hum a lullaby to them. And then lastly, if we're getting them in the car seat or getting them out of the car seat, we can do a really big wave as we're getting them out, modeling that word out, giving them a big hug and saying, I love you. So again, our goal with this tonight, and Stephanie's going to reiterate this point too, is that so many of these strategies can be embedded in your routines. So let's move on to our children who are 12 to 24 months of age in that second year of life. And again, we'll start with expressive language. So that idea of production, what words are they using? In terms of expectations, this is a really fun age because they start to point to ask you for things as well as show you things. They're shaking their head yes and no to either give you an affirmative response or to reject something. Their babbling changes. They're now using jargon where they're combining lots of different sounds together in these strings of sound. And it almost sounds as if they're speaking another language because they've got the inflection of speech and they can embed real words. So you might hear some jibber jabber with an occasional real word embedded in there. By the time the child's 24 months, we would expect that they have 50 words, and they're using these words for a variety of functions. They're going to use their words to tell you they want something. They're going to use their words to protest, to label, to greet, to direct. So oftentimes it's not just having those 50 words, but it's making sure that they're using those words for a variety of different reasons or functions. And then we always remember that their speech is not going to be clear. At 12 to 24 months, we might only get 25 to 50% of what they're saying, or we can understand about that range. So they might say do for shoe or daw for dog. And again, we count those as word approximations and just know that they need more time to be able to produce those words clearer. For our strategies, I think this is my favorite age. This is when during play, you're modeling words like whoa and we, you're making animal sounds. In the car, I remember singing to my kids, doing Old MacDonald and doing animal noises. Children like animal noises. They're fun. They're composed of early developing speech sounds, and the syllable structures, the moo moo, the ba, those are easy for children to say. When I pull my vacuum out to clean my house, I might start making the vacuum noise with my mouth before I turn my vacuum on. So again, just trying to make all types of different play sounds. Now, the next strategy is expansion. So if my child says ball to me as we're playing ball, I'm going to respond back with the word ball, but I'm going to add on to it to stretch their language skills. So when my little one says ball and rolls the ball to me, I'm going to respond back with more ball or play ball or go ball. That way, we're not only giving them affirmation that they've done a wonderful job using a word, but we're showing and modeling for them what that next step would be, which is 2-word phrases. Books are such an important teaching tool for our little ones. We can read books during play. We can do bath books during bath. We could also do we could also do books as a part of our bedtime routine. And when we read the books, we want to be really animated to draw our children into that activity. We don't have to necessarily read the words of the book. We could just point to the pictures and label those for our children. Stephanie always shares a great activity with a group of other parents that we've presented where she takes Post-it notes and she puts them on the board book to create like a peekaboo type of book that the kids all really, really like. And books are just great too to work on opening, turning the pages, giving them a chance to really explore and figure all of that out. Interpretation is our next strategy. This is when we model for the children what they would say if they could. Children this age might take you by the hand and pull you to where they want to go. They might go into the kitchen when they want a snack. So this is when we tell them what words they could say. So as my little one's pulling me to the playroom, I'm going to model come or play. If they're in the kitchen, I might model eat or snack. So again, I'm telling them the words that they could say, so when they're ready to say them, they have them. And then if your home is a multilingual home, we encourage that you're modeling words in all of the languages that are important to your family. Your children are sponges at this age, and so it's going to be so much easier for them to learn those words at this point. Moving on to receptive language. You're going to see your child understanding so many different words. They'll understand many different nouns from a variety of categories. So they're not just understanding dog and cat. They're going to start knowing what a sheep is and what a snake is and a gorilla, that we just see this huge explosion. They're able to point to pictures in books. They're identifying different body parts, and they're starting to understand pronouns, some verbs, as well as adjectives. This is a cool time too, because we see that they're able to follow longer directions. So instead of just a one-step direction, they're able to do some two-step directions, like get the ball and give it to me. In terms of strategies that we can use to facilitate the receptive language, you're going to keep narrating. During meal times, you're going to talk about what you're eating. You're going to talk about what the child's eating. You're going to talk about what you like and what they like. You can play hide and seek during play, where you're hiding different objects and then asking your child to find them. During books, have the child point to pictures that you've named. Where's the ball? Show me the cup. Touch the banana. You can model pronouns through my turn and your turn. My children always love to help unload the dishwasher at this age. And so we would take turns on mommy's turn to take the fork out, Susie's turn to take the spoon out. You can do turn taking during play. Usually children this age are wanting to be more independent, so they want to take a turn with everything. And then we're going to give two-step directions during our routines. Get your plate and take it to the sink. One sequence that I always like to remember when I'm working on receptive language is that I'm going to tell the child how to do something. If they don't do it, then I'm going to show them. If they don't do it after I show them, then I'll help them with some hand-over-hand assistance if they'll tolerate that. All right, finishing up for our little ones that are 12 to 24 months in terms of their social language. And again, that's that informal language that we're using with family members and friends. Children this age begin to show pride in what they know. They're going to give you different objects. They're going to show you toys. They might point to that airplane in the sky. You start to see them notice other babies and children, and regardless of the age, even if the child's their same age, they insist that all children are babies. So they're big kids, but every other child is a baby. We love to see our children start to take off in their pretend play. And so they'll want to imitate roles that they see in their world. Separation anxiety persists, but what we see here is that they quickly figure out that if mom or dad are okay with this stranger, that they're okay. So that's really nice to see that the child recognizes that they can generate their response based on what mom and dad are doing. And so if mom and dad are okay with this person, then I'm going to be okay with this person. Our children at this age range are noticing emotions in others. And oh boy, we see tantrums peak. They are throwing tantrums, and we can understand why, right? Because from a cognitive standpoint, they have so much they want to tell us, and they just don't have enough words at this point in their development to convey all of those wants, needs, and thoughts. And so they're going to tantrum when they feel frustrated. They're going to tantrum when we can't figure out what they want, that we really do see tantrums peak at this point. In terms of strategies, we are using exclamations like cool, aw man, high five. It is so important to provide choices. Thinking about dressing, maybe I offer, do you want to wear your dino shirt or do you want to wear your train shirt? Oftentimes, choice making will help the tantrums reduce or decrease because children want control. And so through routines, we can offer different choices to provide them that control. We're going to label emotions. When we're at the grocery store and we see a baby crying, we're going to talk to our child about that baby feels sad and she needs a hug. We're following our child's lead. We're letting them kind of be the director in play and joining them. We're making routines to help our child feel safe. Really, all people love routines. They provide predictability, make us feel safe, help us manage anxieties. And so when we've got these predictable routines, it can just make the child feel safer and more secure. However, we want to have some flexibility within those routines. We don't want to do it exactly the same way, right? So if we're on a walk, we might take a different path today that we took yesterday. And then when you're becoming a little frustrated or not feeling super regulated, you can show your child how to respond to that by model breathing, calming voice. And again, another strategy is just, helping them work through that tantrum that we know is peaking at this age. So here again are our routines. We've got waking and diapering, dressing, mealtime, playtime, community outings, bath time, and bedtime. I think waking time is a great opportunity to work on greeting and saying hi. I also like during waking to say something like first diaper, then play, so that we're starting to use that language that can, again, help our children with some of their social emotional skills and possibly prevent tantrums, that if they understand that first then type of language. If our child's still in a crib at this point, they can reach their arms up. And as they're doing that, we're going to interpret for them by saying up or want out. During dressing, we're again offering choices for clothing. Maybe we give a direction like get your socks or get your shorts so that they've got an opportunity to follow that direction. At meal times, we could give them a smaller amount of food to see if they'll ask for more. Or maybe we do something really silly, like we forget to give them their spoon on purpose to see how are they going to ask me for this. In terms of bath time, I love working on body parts during bath time. I think that's just a great natural time to talk about their tummy and their hair and their nose. Again, teaching those in the bath because you're already doing that, and it's a great opportunity for your child's development. So what I'm going to do now is pass the baton on to Stephanie as she talks about children that are 24 to 30 months.
Thank you, Amy. You always do such a nice, thorough job of covering everything. As soon as your screen disappears, I'll be able to share mine. And I will, like she said, kick it off here with the next stage, which is our 2-year-olds. Here we go. Okay. How does that look to everyone? Can you all see that? Great.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. And is the screen with participants on it, is it covering up any of the slide?
Nope.
No, you are all good.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, yes, well, so everything that Amy has said so far, I just want to encourage to be continued. Those strategies will continue to be helpful, but we are going to go into a little bit more about what to be expecting for children at 2 in the areas of expressive language, receptive language, and social language, and the strategies to support that. So what can we expect for that first 6 months of the second year expressively? One of the things that you can expect is that vocabulary is really going to continue to grow. It's just going to really start to blossom. You're going to be surprised by some of the words that your child is spitting out. They're also going to start to label more pictures in books. So like Amy said, that book time is a fabulous time to engage children and to work on language. And you're going to, again, see them starting to label things that you didn't maybe even know they knew. They're also going to start to relate experiences using a little bit longer phrases. So before you were working on expanding what they were saying, if they said the one word, you were going to give them another word. And now they're going to start to do that on their own. You might even start to hear some 3-word productions like I want cookie or, me do that. The sounds that you're going to hear are P, B, M, K, G, W, H, N, T, and D. And those are going to be a lot clearer. They're going to be forming the beginnings of a lot of words. So even though you may not hear the whole word, like Amy was talking about before, when children are starting to say their first words, we're hoping that you are going to be able to hear that first part of a word consistently with these sounds. And you are going to start to hear children start to add that on to the end of some simple words as well. You're also going to start to sing some phrases of songs. That's where you've been modeling those songs like Twinkle Twinkle and Itsy Bitsy. And your child might have started to pick up on that melody and kind of help you finish that song. They're also going to begin to start answering some real simple questions. So possibly when you're reading books, you might hear them start to answer with a word or maybe even with a descriptive word and a noun. Like if you said, "What's that?" they might say "bread ball." They also might start to answer questions about like, "Where did it go?" And they might say "ball couch." The ways that you can help support this expressive language, the strategies that you can use are to give them that opportunity to fill in things like those ends of songs. You can just pause and wait and kind of see what they do. You might be surprised. They might start to fill in a couple of words. They also might start to, excuse me, I just lost it. Oh, there it goes. Okay. You also might start to use what are called anchor words, and that's where you provide a first part of a phrase that you know that they know how to say, like Amy has talked about with more, and then you might add another word to that. That gives your child that opportunity to fill in oops, again, sorry, with another word and practice those phrases. You might also try to think about phrases that your child might want to say. Like if you're out on that walk, you might say, oh, I see a bird, I see a car, I see a boy, and just continually giving them that first part of that phrase so that they realize that they can also say that and add on those words that they already have. You also are going to want to keep narrating phrases when they're playing and what they're looking at, what they're playing with, what you're doing. An important thing to remember is that we do want you to try to narrate phrases that are grammatically correct. So the kitty is sleeping is a great one. You're not going to want to make it sound like a child's speech, but you are going to want to keep it simple so that it's something that they can try to repeat. And an important thing to remember too, going back to those sounds that you're going to hear them saying, is we want to sometimes model how to correctly say things if they don't say it quite right. We do not want to overly correct their speech at this age. We want them to just be able to hear how to say it correctly so that they can hopefully imitate back to us with that correct production. Another thing that you can do, another strategy at this age, is just to provide an opportunity for them. And what that means is possibly if there's a toy that they really like or a food that they might want more of, give them that opportunity to ask for that. Just put it a little bit out of reach. Our goal is not to frustrate them, but just to keep providing those opportunities for them to use their language. And our last strategy is to rotate toys. And that's simply because the more novel, the more exciting a toy is, the more likely they probably are to talk to you about it. Okay, so what to expect receptively for your children between the 24 and 30-month-old range. You're going to start to expect that they're going to be able to go to or point to at least a couple different rooms in your house. So if you say, go get it out of the kitchen or get your teddy in your bed or in your bedroom, I apologize. We expect that they'd be able to follow that direction. We also want them to start being able to point to a few pictures that involve action words. So if you say to, who's running? We want your child to be able to start to identify what that action word means and point to it in a picture. This is also the stage when, yes, you hear no a lot, but they also start to understand what that means when you say it. And we hope that they start to follow some basic safety directions. They're probably things that you've been saying for quite a while, but now we really expect them to be able to follow them. Things like get down, hold my hand, stop. Kids also are starting to really listen to stories. They're going to be able to stay a little bit longer with books because they're starting to understand a little bit more about that process. It's something you've been practicing and doing, and now they're going to be able to listen to a little bit more. They're going to also start to understand about 10 verbs at least. And again, that's kind of something that you can kind of informally check to see if they're learning and understanding when they're pointing out those action words as you're talking about something in a story or that you see in pictures somewhere. And to expand further, they have also gone from that step of being able to follow two-step related directions, which I think Amy might have given you an example like get your cup and take a drink. That would be related because those two things kind of go hand in hand. But an unrelated two-step direction would be something a little different. It might be something like give it to dad and then go get on your bed. We want them to be able to start to be able to follow a little bit more complex directions. And so some strategies that you can use to help them are to be actively labeling names of rooms in your home. So again, maybe when you're giving those directions, you're saying, go get it out of the kitchen or it's in your bedroom. We also want you to label directions of what your child's doing as they're doing them. That way they can really understand that that action is linked to that word. So if you're outside and your child is, coloring with chalk, you might be like, oh, you're drawing a pretty picture. Or if they're jumping off of a trampoline, you might be, oh, I see that was a big jump. You're jumping. A way to kind of reinforce the safety directions is also through actions. You can be giving them a fun game called red light, green light, practicing safety rules during happy times. The reason we encourage you to do this during happy times is because they're going to be able to process that a lot more than if it's something that they're being reprimanded for and they're upset about. And if you don't know what red light, green light is, it's a game where you can either hold up like your hand for a stop, or you can even maybe hold up a little red card, and that signals to the child that they're supposed to stop. And a green light would be, oh, we can go, we can walk, we can run, we can jump. And you could even use a gesture to kind of support that, like a little, the sign for go, or just a point to let them know that they can go. Another thing that's really important is that as you're giving these directions, this again, going back to an earlier strategy, is we want you to get down and really be face to face with your child, because that's really going to help them understand, and you know that you have their attention. It's going to be something that you're going to really want to stress. And so you're going to want to make sure that your child is focused on you and the words that you're giving to them to follow those directions. So again, keep reading to your child, talking about the pictures and what you see. And going back to the direction following again, if you feel like your child isn't following some of those two-step unrelated directions, then it's great if you can kind of help motor them through it or give them some cues to support that. What we mean by that is, if you are saying, pick up the phone, you might point to the phone, or you might help them put their hand on the phone. If you want them to, walk to the bedroom, you might put your hand on their back and kind of guide them, like, come on, let's go, so that they know what it is you're expecting, if they're not understanding that just through the words alone. The social skills that we can expect to see at this age are, as parallel play is developing, which is when children are playing side by side, we also see that they're starting to notice other children. That being said, they still really like to be the center of attention. This is when, if you laugh at something they do, they'll probably do it again. Or they might say, look me, look me. They also are learning what no, mine, and me do it mean, and actively are going to be probably using that. They are learning that things can belong to them, and it's perfectly acceptable to be using these words if a child is taking something of theirs, or if it's an appropriate opportunity to say no to something that they don't want. Big emotions are still reigning at this age, and they're really trying to learn by exploring and doing new things for themselves. So how can we help them with these social skills? Well, like Amy said earlier, we still want you to keep offering choices for your child. You might ask them which thing they want to do first, if it's an opportunity for them to be in control of the schedule. Like, do you want to brush your teeth first or wash your face? We want it to be something that you can be okay with. And you are going to have to continue to just really pick your battles at this stage. Children are going to be very assertive. They're going to be, again, wanting to try those things for themselves, and it's wonderful, and we want to encourage that independence. But we also have to let them know when things are not safe. You can become their inner voice. You can do this by kind of talking through things, letting them know what it is that you would be saying like what you would like them to be thinking. So, if they're up high, you might say, oh, we're high, we need to be careful, or acknowledging feelings. This is also when you're going to want to really be staying close to your children when they're playing, because as they're playing side by side, but starting to notice other children, they're not always sure how to interact with that child. So we want you to help teach them how to, like I said, defend things that are theirs, but also how to take turns and how to share with other children. including how to wait for their turn. And they don't know how to do this yet. And we want you to be able to help them with those skills. Keep labeling those emotions. That's really going to help them feel like you are acknowledging what they're going through, and it's going to be teaching them how to use those so that those tantrums can eventually start to calm down. And keep praising their efforts as they like to try new things, as they're exploring. Give them kudos for what they're learning and they're doing on their own, and when they're following directions that you give them. Okay. I'm going to just cruise through the rest of this because I want to make sure that you have plenty of time to ask questions at the end if need be. But these routines, once again, are all the same as what Amy has presented. They are perfect opportunities to be able to use all these different strategies. We don't want you to have to feel like you have to do things differently than you already are doing. Just try to find those opportunities to embed those strategies in waking, diapering, dressing, meal times, playtime, when you're out in the community, and at bath time and bedtime. Okay. 30 to 36 months is when we start to expect more expressive language. Your child's going to be able to give their full name. My child, I remember when he would introduce himself, would give his middle name included. And nobody really knew what to do with that, but he was really proud that he knew his full name. We also are going to really continue to see that vocabulary expand. Your child should have more than 200 plus words at this point. They're going to be repeating and using 4 to 5 word sentences and phrases because all through this, you've been expanding, you've been talking to them, you've been describing things. They're also going to start to understand prepositions and should be able to start to use those. Those are those location words. So things like on, in, under, oh, maybe not over, but up, down. And you're really going to start to see more clarity in their speech. They should be using clear speech that you can understand about 80% of the time now. You're going to be hearing them ask and answer questions. The asking is really exciting when they say things like, what that, where'd it go? It's really when we start to really see more conversation flourish. And the ways that you can continue to promote that expressively are keep reading, talk to them about what's going to happen next. Again, keep letting them finish those familiar phrases. Highlight, which when we say this, it just means really like emphasize. You can maybe say it a little louder, or you can say it's sing-songy. You could slow it down. Highlight those prepositions, like my car's under the chair, or oh, it's up so high. We also want you just to keep asking questions when your child can see a visual response. That will help them know kind of what it is that they are supposed to say to answer. But make sure that you keep that question asking balanced with comments. We want it to be a conversation with your child. We don't want your child to feel like they're at an interview. Okay, receptively, you can expect that your child is going to start to understand about 8 adjectives or those describing words. You're going to be able to say like, get the purple color or get the softball. And they should be able to get those things for you because they're going to start to understand what some of those describing words mean. And they're going to continue to develop that sense of what's funny. So if you say something like, oh my gosh, I'm so hot. If you go out in the snow, they're going to laugh because they're going to realize that that's just a silly thing that you said. And that is one of our strategies. We want you to be able to say some off the wall things and see if your child enjoys that. See if they catch that. And that's how part of the way that you know that they are understanding what it is that you're sharing with them. Keep giving directions. Start using prepositions in your directions, like go get your shoes that are under the table, or oh my gosh, look, it's the toy is up on that shelf. You know, can you get it down? teach some of those adjectives too in pairs so that your child can kind of compare what it is that you are trying to teach them with that adjective. If you pair, oh, you're using a loud voice, I need you to use a quiet voice. They're going to better understand what those words mean. And you can use those descriptive words with a lot of exaggeration. Again, highlight those words. Socially, what you can expect in the second half of the second year is that they're going to start to take pride in their achievements. And you probably have been doing a great job of praising them. They're going to start to feel that sense of, I did it. They're also going to start to understand other children's feelings, other people's feelings. Because again, you have been talking about those things, and they're going to start to realize and make that connection with how that feels. They're also going to learn that sharing. They might get bossy, and they might be very defensive of their property, but that is very typical expectations for kids at this age. So you can just keep labeling emotion words, but give them a little help. So, for example, if they see the crying baby, you might say, oh, that baby maybe needs a hug. Keep praising them. That will encourage them to keep following those directions that you ask them, but be very specific. Say things like, I like how you listened when I told you to get down, or maybe I like how you walked to the car. Give them very specific praise rather than just like, way to go. Give your kids extra time to practice independence too, and give them that one-on-one time so that they can really feel like they have that connection with you and want to continue to try more things and to talk with you. Okay, I know we're almost out of time. I'm so sorry. Keep using those in all your routines. I'm just going to really quickly share this. The best time to use these routines is when you and your child are in your happy place, you're in a calm, not rushed place, not like me right now, where they are feeling like you have that time to give them because they're going to want to be able to absorb that in a way that, like Amy said, you have their attention. They're in a place where they can learn. Do this when there are things that they like, maybe when you can involve their friends or a peer, or I'm sorry, or a sibling. Do it with things that you like to do too, because how you are feeling is going to come across to your child, and get face to face with them. These are just some final things that we wanted to share with you. These are some really nice resources that will reinforce what we talked about today. If you haven't heard of Miss Rachel already, if you go to her YouTube channel, when you see how animated and excited she is, we encourage families to try to be Miss Rachel, channel that Miss Rachel. And Telelingo Kids is a really nice Miss Rachel in Spanish. So not to minimize that, but it's something similar where they're just very animated and where they're using the strategies in a way that we would like you to do. And Learn with Adrienne, she does some really nice videos that you can go back and look at some of the strategies that we talked about and see kind of how she would model that. And Vroom is an opportunity for you to be able to go to your child's age and kind of look back and see kind of how to implement strategies in your routines. They might give some specific examples like, what do I do when I'm sorting laundry? How can I engage my child in that activity? So sorry. Are there any questions? Sorry that the last half had to kind of get rushed through. I hope that everything was clear and that you've had an opportunity to still continue to learn what to expect from the 2-year-olds and when to use those strategies.